listening to Out Late with David. True stories of coming out later in life. And now here's your host, David Cotton.
This is a special edition of Out Late with David. Recently, I traveled to Key West, Florida, and had the joy of spending time with Jon and Brian of Out Loud, where they were hosting a vacation event for some of their viewers. I'm happy to share the conversation that we had about coming out later in life and age gap relationships. Thank you to Jon and Brian for hosting the Out Loud adventure. It was wonderful to meet other men from across the country in such a beautiful location. Please check out their podcast Out Loud on your favorite podcast platform and YouTube. I hope you enjoy what we discussed on that beautiful porch.
Guess what's more scary than coming out to your parents?
Maybe coming out to your wife and children?
Today we have a very special guest on the show. We have David Cotton. He is a U.S. Air Force Brigadier General, retired military veteran who does amazing work with the aging gay population.
He has this amazing podcast called Out Late with David. And here he is, David Cotton.
Thank you. Great to be here today.
We have so much that we want to get into. We have a fun video planned, so let's dive in.
So David is part of this gaggle of gays, 25 of us, down here in Key West, even though I have my Palm Springs shirts on.
Yeah.
We are in Key West. David, what do you think of this adventure so far?
Oh, it's been a blast. I'm so glad you guys put this together, and it's been fun to meet new guys from across the country, different perspectives, different stories. It's been really fun. And you put on a great program of activities to keep us busy and enjoy ourselves.
So when we had talked to you earlier, you said this will be the first time you've been in Key West as an out gay man. Is it everything and more that you wanted it to be?
Oh, very much so. It's
good.
it's a bit different this time. Yes, the last time I was here, I had not come out yet, and as I've said, maybe it was the beginning of my coming out was coming to Key West during that trip, seeing small pride parade, walk down the street and inside saying, I think that's my community. And so that started the thought process and kicked that on.
Wow. I found your podcast about a year and a half ago, and while I don't share the out late, came out very young, but I have a lot of patients who I see clinically that really benefit from your message. And so I'd love you to just tell us what you're doing with Out Late, how you got there, and a little bit about yourself.
Sure, thanks.
Yeah.
Well, we found out too, out late is a relative term. I've had listeners and clients as a life coach that are 29 or 30. And they think they're out late because they married, had their first child, and they're struggling with what do they do with this thought. Since I came out late myself, I was on a podcast called Graying Rainbows, which is stopped now. Dr. Ginger Campbell stopped that. She was a guest on my show and kind of passed the baton to carry on the work.
Nice.
But it was things like that and books I read. I couldn't find a community that could really help me resolve all that. So I decided to pay back. I was having men reach out to me because they'd seen me as a guest on other shows I'd been on. And I thought, why not do that? And then out of nowhere, a very talented producer said, I like your message. I will help you put this together. And so I'm blessed that he does that pro bono. We charge nothing for this. We make no money at it. We do it truly as a service to the community. And as a result, these little communities have started to grow. And now there's a symbiotic relationship between something called Gay Fathers Worldwide, husbands out to wives. And so it starts that dialogue, and men find support through other men going through similar experiences.
Yeah, a lot of our viewers are aging gay men, and we get a lot of questions like meeting new people, getting out there, coming out to your family. So this is a very real issue that you're doing great things.
Well, as society has changed and become more accepting,
Right.
more men are starting to realize they can take action. And what do they do with this? Then they go through kind of the shame and the guilt of, oh my God, like me, I fell in love with my wife, had kids, a beautiful life, but I also had this pressure inside of me I could never understand. Had nothing to do with her, it was all about me until I realized what that was about me, and other guys have that same situation.
In listening to some of the guests that you've had, I'm always amazed at the communities that, like you said, I don't know if it's like gay husbands, that like there are all these groups that they have found afterwards, and some of the men stay married. The thing I loved about your podcast, it's not this cookie cutter. You're gay, and this is what you're supposed to be. You're straight,
Everyone's
and this is what you're
situation.
supposed to be.
Yeah.
And you bring that out, and it's very interesting to me. And I always listen to you on my commute, so I'll either be crying or laughing, and it's great. It's just I'm learning so much about it.
A recent guest who's been in an ethical, non-monogamous relationship with his wife for like 12 to 15 years,
Wow.
where they both have decided to have a relationship with a man outside of their marriage, but they still stay married to do that. You know, other men, most that I have worked with or know, that is not the case.
Right.
They try it maybe. That's what some organizations support, like the Husbands Out to Wives.
You're right.
But that's not the way it happens for many people. They realize it's really not fair to her, is what some believe, and not fair to themselves, and therefore they decide to figure out how to keep the family together. Sometimes that works. I always tell clients to be patient. They may either be supportive or non-supportive. The spouse may be the straight spouse on day one, but that can change over time.
Right.
And just if it's not that way now, but you want to have the relationship as a family, because if you have kids, then be patient. Don't push it. Don't force it, and things will happen. Hopefully, over time, if you live true and honest, be kind, caring, compassionate, and understand what, in this case, she usually, but not always a she, but what they are going through as the straight spouse when they had just had 600 pounds of bricks dropped on their head in an instant, when maybe the person who's coming out has had months or years to think about it, and now they're going, oh my God. So we did one show with a woman who is the podcaster for, used to be called Straight Spouses Network, now it's called Our Path, and she created a beautiful guide of how to come out to the straight spouse.
Wow.
Things to think about. Because medical stuff goes through the straight spouse's head, you know, fidelity goes through the straight spouse's head. Have I been fooled? What did I miss, you know? So I tell guys, don't rush into it. You waited this long. Let's take some time and think through what all the questions are and try to answer them in a loving, caring, and compassionate way. You just don't want to go in and drop it on their head and then run out of the room.
And that's a great philosophy, or it's great advice, just because that applies across the board. Because even as you're coming out, if you're coming out younger, you've always known, and so you've been processing it for years. But then all of a sudden you tell your parents, and you expect them to already be caught up to you,
to be there,
but they're not.
Yeah.
You
and
know,
the fears that you had, how are my parents going to react? Because even someone coming out older, I had clients that lives with parents, because of the aging parents' relationship, feared they would lose them, did not. But we worked through on, what do you think they're going to say? How will they react? How does religion fit into it? How does their culture? How does their age? All those aspects of generational things fit into that whole dynamic of the fear that you have, and then how to work through each of those fears, so you at least you're positioning yourself from, again, that position of caring, kindness, and compassion.
And in your life coaching, do you feel, are most of your clients like older coming out, and that's who you're guiding, or does it go across
the age
board?
range I have is 30 to 81.
Wow. Yeah, so that's the whole board. That runs the gamut.
You know, and married, not married, sometimes they're not married, and it's coming out to someone close in their life, or they have a cultural bias, and therefore they're insecure about that. And again, it's working through where the fears that they have, and then what's the basis of those fears, and then how to address them so they can confidently go forward and just be relaxed and content with themselves always, and not be in fear every single day of their life.
Right.
81 years old.
Yeah, 81 years old.
Wow.
Yeah.
Better late than never.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, there's some sad stories of. Remember last year of a veteran that passed, and I think in some of the last things that he wrote that he was struggling his entire life.
Ugh.
You know, I struggled in the military. I suppressed what I was thinking the whole time. I just pushed it back. I had two personalities. I tell people, if you met me before I came out, totally different guy. A 3-foot mask, no personality, no emotions. They weren't there.
Wow.
Because that was to protect me.
Sure.
And on the when you take the personality test, I was an introvert. I'm a little more extroverted than that. Instead of an INTJ, I'm more of an ENFP. Not a flaming extrovert, but more extroverted.
We know that. We've
Yes.
seen him in Key West here. Stay tuned for that.
Right.
But I had to answer 3 questions. You know, are you a communist? Are you a member of an organization that would advocate the overthrow of the U.S. government? And are you homosexual?
Oh, jeez.
My employer, the United States
Wow.
government, asked me that.
Wow.
And that's from the lavender scare of Eisenhower administration until Don't Ask, Don't Tell ended. That's when those questions ended the year that I retired, or around the year that I retired.
Wow.
And so that, that's the threat that you had. I had, if I can remember, one, a man in my unit, very attractive man. You thought you never saw him at a function with a girlfriend or whatever. Well, after all that has been now no longer the case, he and his husband have an adopted beautiful child. They're both colonels or lieutenant colonels in the Air Force, having wonderful, successful careers.
Yeah.
Being their true self.
Wow.
And not having to worry about those 3 questions.
So,
Oh my gosh.
you kind of speak to aging gay men. I mean, any gay man, we're good at compartmentalizing, about putting inside, keeping ourselves inside, and showing others what we need to get by.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that you run into that with a lot of your clients. And how do you break down those barriers? Like, what advice are you giving these guys to help get there?
I understand where the basis of the fear, and why they have that fear. Sometimes it's family, religion, some cultural bias, and then what their values are, what's important to them. In my case, it was more important for me. I couldn't be a wholly present person once I realized I was gay and kept that in. So I had to express it knowing it was going to cause pain and anguish in the ones I loved and still do. But I couldn't go on. I could not continue. I was having thoughts of, I would rather have that semi hit me on that 2-lane bridge and knock me over into the river on the way to work, literally.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Just not brave enough to kill myself, but I just didn't want to live each day. So it's understanding the fear, and in my case, it was, I don't want to live that way, and I don't want to die, so I just have to accept who I am and just be honest. Again, kindness, caring, compassion. Did I do it right? No. In fact, I tell those that I advise, don't do it the way I did. Don't just drop it and try to move on. That was not well. Think of the straight spouses or the partner or whatever it is, the person in your life. What's their support system? Who can they talk to? Who can they go to? Who can they feel safe with to share this news, to get through their life?
Sure.
Because they've just had it was just totally disruptive. Not a clue. In my case, it was not a clue. There was no indication that who I was.
So we're men of a certain age.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel that the younger generation supports us, besides, of course, my husband? But
Well, I've seen some
like-
younger guys who are not the most accepting to the older gay population.
Right.
So
I would say that's probably just general, regardless of whether you're gay or straight. It becomes more of a dynamic in the dating and relationship mode.
sure.
And I found you on YouTube because I'm of the age gap. That fascinates me, how that successfully works. The interesting dynamics between the age gap of the experience of the older and maybe the excitement and the newness from the younger, and then experience those things together and grow together to do that.
Yeah.
But I get sometimes, well, you're out late, David, so you've got to sow your oats. You've got to do these things. People make up these biases. So I meet someone, even my same generation, who I might have interest in getting to know better. They say, you need to go figure this all out first. Well, I think I figured out quite a bit, so don't sell me short. So it kind of irritates me.
Yeah.
You're a baby gay is what I hear, like, oh my God, come on. Yeah, I may have come out late, but I'm pretty sure what I'm looking for in the world and the type of people I want to make connection with,
Right.
regardless of their age.
Right.
But sometimes, as I told friends when I go to my local gay bar in the town I'm moving from, I feel transparent many times, like they're just looking right through me, like I'm not even there.
Yeah.
I see.
And I can kind of understand it at some level. But
Yeah, I mean, if that's your type, that's your
Right.
type.
That's your
If
type.
It doesn't. For me, like, because everyone's always like, "Oh, you like younger guys." No, I like guys.
exactly.
If
Yeah.
someone is 80 and I'm attracted to them, I'm attracted to them.
Yeah. And for me too, it's a lot of what's in their head too, and the way they think and their intellect. It's got to be there, nothing else. But I would say it's not just the age gap to your question or the age difference. To me, it's more, from my perception experience, it's more the bias of I'm out late, therefore you've got to go experience things before you really know what you want in life for me to really associate with you. And I say,
But
you're
the
missing
way-
an opportunity is what I tell them.
Yeah, the way I look, right? The way I look at it, you've lived a life.
Exactly,
Like just all of a sudden, because now that I'm gay doesn't mean I haven't lived that life to be able to share and do things, and
Or I get, you've never been in a long-term relationship. Well, I was married almost 30 years, and it was successful and loving until I came out.
Right.
But until then, it was beautiful and wonderful.
Yeah.
So I think I have experience there using my response.
You're gonna carry those skills with
Yeah.
you into
Right.
your
And had
next
children.
relationship. Exactly.
Whose son then felt comfortable enough. My son came out as gay after I did.
I see. Well, and just I think the notion of wanting to get into a relationship at any level means that you love yourself and you're ready to welcome love into
Right.
someone else. You know.
Yeah.
Is it everything you wanted to be and more?
I'm more at peace.
Yeah.
I'm relaxed. It's not all unicorns and rainbows.
No.
But life isn't.
I was gonna
Life
say,
isn't.
right.
No life is that way, whether you're gay, straight, trans, bi, asexual. It's just, I'm myself. So my license plate is authentic. AUTHNTC, authentic. Because I feel like I'm living my authentic life for me, the way I now define it. And I'm at peace with that. Yes, I hurt people in the process. That was not my intent.
Right.
But I can still love and support them in their endeavors, and I can love and support myself in my endeavors, and hopefully others along the way too, by
Yeah.
doing Outlet with David and coaching and other like philanthropy work. Was in a vice president of a charity in Iowa. We give out scholarships to high school kids who would advocate for equality and inclusion in their small community.
Wow.
Small, usually
Amazing.
very conservative communities. So
Yeah.
they'd come out, they'd transition, and then be dismissed by their family
Sure.
and friends, so things like that. That's just the way I have to live. Again, to me, it's paying back to those that helped me. Like the first guest on my show, Jonathan Wilson. I always struggle, people say, which is the best show to listen to? They all have a different message, so it's kind of hard.
Yes.
But Jonathan, it was not video, so it's the audio only. But he was one of the first people I went to, and he's the one that started that charity called First Friday Breakfast Club for the scholarships. He came out on live TV, running for school board re-election.
Yes, I just listened to that.
Yeah, and he said, I'm an attorney, I'm philanthropic, I'm a leader in the community, I'm a school board member, I'm a father, I'm a son, I'm a husband, blah, 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 and I'm a gay man. And he lost.
Yeah.
Then he had to have security details because he was threatened,
Yeah.
thought to
Yeah.
be murdered and killed, and they stayed in separate bedrooms, and tells a beautiful story. But the best part of that story was the postscript, which is why we now have a postscript on each show, because he took me, after we finished recording, he took me upstairs to his daughter's bedroom.
Yes.
And there's this huge carousel with this gigantic miniature dollhouse on it, where you could see the fruit pie baking and cooling in the kitchen and the cat rolled up on a rug. His former spouse comes to the house almost every day to work on that, and then has coffee or lunch with Jonathan and his partner. So
Wow.
they have that's what the relationship a lot of
Yeah.
men want
Right.
that come out is to keep that. Not all do.
Yeah.
But that was such an example of how you can be yourself and still keep the relationship that was important to you. You had children.
Right.
There's the YouTube TED Talk. It's beautiful, where a husband and wife, now divorced, he came out, they honor their wedding anniversary by calling it Family Day instead of the anniversary, because we had the family. So let's honor that. So there's
celebrate
many
the
different ways, but all the shows have a different theme and message. So it's hard to pick one.
They do, like I said, like I'm crying some days, I'm laughing some days, I'm yelling back at the podcast at the same time. So it does. It's a great variety. I really enjoy it.
Well, thank you.
So
I want to thank you for the service, because in the men that I talk to, many of the older men are interested in age gap. Again, as I mentioned earlier, maybe it's the dynamics of the freshness of
Maybe.
experience things through the eyes of someone younger that they didn't get to because they came out later,
Sure.
right.
but yet they find a bond to do that. So maybe my final question to you is then, what advice might you give to those older men who are entering into the dating world and how they would do that beyond the world of the hookup apps that
Yeah.
they all fear with some
I think it's we talk about self-awareness again. Being clear of what you want out of a relationship. If you want to have fun and make up for lost time, as some older men need to do, and do that, do it. But if you're looking for a relationship, I think that's just being clear and communicative with your partner up front.
Right. He had kind of made it clear, because he had just got out of an age gap relationship, that he didn't want a relationship, and so I just put the voodoo on him, and 7 years later, he still hasn't come out of it
I wasn't
yet.
looking for love, but I found it. And
There
I
you
think
go,
that's
and-
when
Yeah.
it happens, right?
It does. It
You know?
does.
You don't look for it, and you find common things like yours is sports, was it not?
Yeah.
Sports and working out.
Sports,
Fitness,
working
yeah.
out,
Yeah.
fitness,
Yeah.
yeah. Food.
It's face-to-face as
everything.
well. It's a face-to-face connection that
Yeah.
you make.
Yeah.
It's something that of common interest.
Well, I'll tell you, we are in Key West. It is a stellar blue sky.
Gorgeous.
So there is a pool party going on in like 10 minutes. So we need to get to the pool and have some fun with the rest of our guys. I want to thank David Cotton. Once again, it's Out Late with David. It's an amazing podcast. I'm sure it's on all the places that you listen to your podcast. Please go listen to him. And as always, don't forget to live your lives out loud.
Thanks, David.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
As a life coach, I'm committed to help you discover the passions in your life and help you map a course to achieve the things you really want. Together, we will unwind those persistent self-doubts that are holding you back. You'll begin to see your passions more clearly and set achievable goals. Throughout your journey, I'll be there to challenge and encourage you in moving forward to discover your authentic self. For more information about my personal life coaching services, or to arrange a complimentary consultation, visit davidcottoncoaching.com.
You're listening to Out Late with David. To hear more episodes, visit outlatewithdavid.com. And to learn more about personal life coaching services, go to davidcottoncoaching.com.